Hey, all you mentees, Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And join me today for my overview of the Bitterroot Omnibus. Book 1. Interesting that they put a book 1 in there. But let's go ahead and get started. Alright, what we're looking at here is the Bitterroot Omnibus Book 1. I love the fact that it says Book 1. Always gives me hope that there's going to be future volumes. And I'll talk about the story and premise of this particular omnibus. But just in case you don't even want to go into looking at the internal artwork, I will say that this does wrap up nicely. It leaves a lot of questions for future volumes, perhaps. But there is a lot of wrap-up happening in this volume that will make people happy if this is all they read from the creators. But here we have a brand new cover by Sanford Green and a Will Eisner Best Continuing Series winner of 2020 and 2022. And the spine of the book, Bitterroot, the image logo up there. The creators, David E. Walker, Chuck Brown, and Sanford Green, and one. Come on now. We need that volume 2. The Bitterroot symbol here. For generations, the Sangrier family. By the way, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you all, that last name, even in the videos I've done on the channel about Bitterroot, I'm going to butcher it because I really don't know how to pronounce it. And if you do, by all means, please let me know in the comments below. Has fought to protect the world from evil plague of the Genu. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. The price of the book is $59.99. Now, one of the things I remember seeing when I saw the it was a Twitter it's showing my age, a tweet by one of the creators was the size of the book. People in the comments were saying, oh, this looks like to be a standard size. So, let me just go ahead and put those worries to the side because this is the size of a Marvel Omnibus. It is the height of a Marvel Omnibus. Here's the spine. Now, one thing, of course, to keep in mind is that Marvel and DC have these curved spines like that. Whereas most, probably 99% of Image books have a flat spine like so. But they are right around the same height. So rest assured that this is the size of a deluxe edition hardcover, an omnibus, and not a standard size hardcover, which is the size of a trade paperback. Speaking of trade paperbacks, these were originally published in 3 trades like these. So 3 trades make up what is collected in here. Now, I'm going to be talking about the premise of the book while showing off this beautiful artwork. Talking about some of the plot points, not going too deep into any kind of spoilers, but just kind of giving you the pitch of what Bitterroot is. I believe it's been in my Hidden Gems before. I've done an actual review of the first volume, and oh my gosh, I've been pushing this book for years, so this makes me so happy that it is now collected in one big hardcover. So let's go ahead and get this open and talk about the book, and then we'll talk about the build of the book, and I'll have timestamps in the description of the video for people that don't even want to look inside the book and want to be surprised to jump over to the build of it. Alright, so let's go ahead and crack this book open. Here's your end sheets, some wonderful artwork of Sanford Green and Bitterroot, which is what the cover of the first trade paperback was right there. Omnibus Book 1, love it. Created by David F. Walker, Chuck Brown, Sanford Green, and your colors right here, the letters, and the editors, and an introduction. This is your table of contents right here, telling you where you're going to find each of the chapters. Here's your introduction by Jason Johnson, who is a professor of politics and journalism at Morgan State University. And I actually like his introduction because he talks about hearing comics. I love that. He talks about the first time he heard a comic was an issue of Daredevil. And so I thought that was a nice introduction. Because you never know where you're going to go with introductions from the people that really had nothing to do with the comic being put together. You never know where the intros are going to go. Now, I will say, this is a really great idea right here. This is the Sangrier family. This tells you who you're going to be looking at here through these pages, like Belinda and Cullen and Ford Sangrier, who is by far my favorite badass. Although I do like Berg. Now, one thing, if you've never read this, stay away from the little synopsis here as to who these characters are, because it spoils one of the little plot points that happens throughout this book. So that's just my small suggestion to you for people that don't like anything spoiled. Here we have a little bit about what this book is. So this collects Bitterroot 1 through 15 and Bitterroot's Red Summer Special. It has a lot of extras. All of the articles that were in the original trade paperbacks and single issues, they're all intact and in here. All the variant covers, we'll be looking at those in a little bit. But the book has 528 pages. So what is this book about? Well, it all starts off in Harlem in 1924. And that is an era of comics that doesn't really get focused on. I don't think I've ever read a comic book that takes place in this particular era of Harlem and the Renaissance with music and art that it was having at the time. And we're introduced to these monsters that are going around and killing people. They're known as the Genu. And then we're introduced to the badass family that is supposed to be taking care of them. Now, this family has been kind of torn apart. Something huge has happened in their past for them to kind of decline in numbers. So this is the remains of the cousins and uncles and aunts, mothers that are left over from a big massacre that has happened. And it was a fight between the Genu and the Sangreer family. So that's who we're meeting here. And they're a group of monster hunters, all taking place again in Harlem in the early 20s. So as you read the book, you find out that the Genu are actually human beings that are transformed, if you will, due to their internal hatred. And a lot of that has to do with, of course, the time and the locations. Because what this is, it works like a historical fiction type of graphic novel. Because we're not just looking at Harlem, we're also going to be looking at places down south. We're going to be looking at Tulsa. So why Bitterroot? What is the name Bitterroot? Well, Bitterroot is the actual medicine that they're able to provide to cure the Genu. And some of the family members don't agree with actually curing them. They think of just making them extinct, killing all of these monsters. And some of them are like, no, we have to make this medication. This is the only way that we can get these people back. I love this character of Blink because she refuses to be somebody that just makes the medicine. She wants to be a badass warrior. And as you will read through here, you get to find out the personalities of these characters and who they are. And there are a lot of characters, including my dude right there. Variant covers are sometimes collected on the opposite side of the standard covers. So like this one here, supplied by, of course, Mike Mignola. And like I said, there's some stories that take place in the South, and these stories are about to connect because what you think you know about the Genu is about to change. Because it's not just the Genu that are out there, there are other type of monsters. And some of these people are turning into monsters not because of their hatred, but because of different things. And the more you read, the more you get to find out about what makes someone turn. And then, of course, the more you read, the more you find out about the family's past. Now, to me, this always read, like, the way that I sold it, it was like, this is a wonderful anime / Ghostbusters type of story. And it does feel like that. To this day, going back and rereading this when I got this last week, I had to go back and reread it because I'm a big fan of the series. And I wanted to make sure that I still did it justice by doing this overview and talking about it. I still feel like that. I still feel like the pitch is, this is Ghostbusters meets this ass-kicking action anime. And of course, you're throwing in some things that actually happened in the past, right? Whenever I mentioned the whole story that takes place in Tulsa. Oh my gosh. So there's a lot of historical parts in there. And a lot of the characters have different types of abilities. And you can have magic users, you can have somebody that turns into a giant monster, you can have a badass with a big gun. Here's the articles right here, in between chapters. Now, as the story progresses, I will say, and I'm just being fair with it, I love this story. I think it is freaking brilliant, and I still stand by it. But it can get a little convoluted and a little confusing when you get to the Red Summer right here. Because the Red Summer is a story that goes back to the year 1850 to talk about this big event that happened. And it talks about different events through time that involve the Sangreer family and the Genu. And after that, the story gets a little complicated because it can jump back and forth in different times. So we go from like 1920 to 1919, and it focuses less on the characters, which I enjoyed, and more on the plot, which, like I said, I think the plot is phenomenal. I like the characters, but I wish they had focused a little more on the characters and building the relationships between the family by the time you get to the end. As I mentioned at the beginning in the non-spoilery part of this video, just showcasing this beautiful artwork, it does feel like it wraps up. I love this. I love the variants. They have a lot of like movie variants, like this right here, of course, is New Jack City. But I think it does a good job wrapping up the stories that are in here. But there's so many questions by the end of it that you're going to be like, oh man, there has to be more. And especially with the things that they start setting up in the third act. So it almost feels like, is that juice? I think it's juice. It almost feels like, hey, we are setting some things up for the future. So I hope that these gentlemen come back and tell another story with this family, because this family can expand. The family, I mean, we're talking about a story that took place in 1920 or in the early 20s. So they can expand on that and just go all the way into the 80s, the 90s. I would love to see this family and where they've been. And you get maybe a little bit of that towards the end, but that's all I will say. Not everybody makes it out of here, and there's a lot of twists and turns that happen. And I love Sanford Green. I think he's a phenomenal artist. But the art can get a little confusing sometimes. It's not during action sequences, actually, because I think he does a really good job separating the characters. But it's mainly when you have a bunch of characters all in one place that it gets a little hard to follow a particular set of characters. But that is a very small complaint about this wonderful series. It is a phenomenal series that I, to this day, still strongly recommend. Now, let's go ahead and welcome everybody else back that didn't want to see anything of the internal artwork and look at the back matter. So, we are looking at all the extras in the back, the articles, and there are articles and variants in between the issues too. So this isn't everything. There's an afterword here by legendary Dennis Cohen. And this is where you're going to find a bunch of the variants, including that badass Akira variant right there by Sanford Green. There's actually a Totoro variant back here too. Yeah, right there. My daughter likes that one. That's a beautiful piece by Ben Oliver. Original artwork and color tones that they use for the book. I love the color. I didn't speak enough of that. And the actual characters you're going to be reading about through here. Sketches, blank variants, and then you get some fan art. I love that they put fan art in the back. You don't really see a lot of collections with fan art, so it's like giving the community back something that, hey, your art is back here. Not only that, but also they have their own t-shirts with a bitter root symbol, and these are, of course, famous people. Some, unfortunately, that are no longer with us. But then they have a bunch of pictures with just the fans. Shout out to my dude, Jonesy, man, that's what's up. Big friend of the channel, and much love to him, man. Love that dude. So it's really cool to see him in the back. I recognized him right away. But yeah, it's really cool just to see them give back to the fans. That's awesome, because they realize that the fans are, you know, what builds you, what puts you there. And here's a bio on the creators, and then the end page. Now, let's talk about the build of this book. This book has 528 pages, and it is sewn binding, and that's what my eye looks like. Now, you've probably heard me on my channel talk about the ribbon and the tail and the head. What we're looking at here is the tail, like the bottom, right? And I've always said these days, they don't make books like they used to, like back in the 40s and 50s when it was true sewn binding. Nowadays, it's more of a cosmetic thing, and it's been like that everywhere. And this is kind of to show you an example of what I mean by cosmetic. This right here that you think, oh, it's holding it all together. I actually probably need to put a little glue on there. Kind of sucks, actually. But we're looking at, again, the bottom, the tail. This is just cosmetic. This doesn't go all the way through. It's just pages that are all the bunches together. Nothing is really holding it. This isn't really holding anything. So when we look at the top, or the head, giving that appearance of, oh, yeah, this is an actual ribbon. That's really cool. Given that appearance that, oh yeah, this is actually holding everything together. But that's what I mean whenever I talk about binding, that sometimes this isn't, it's just there for cosmetic reasons. And here's a ribbon. Actually comes with a ribbon. And how the book lays over. Now, I've seen Marvel and DC books like that. I think the Captain America and the Miles Morales book is notorious for having that bad binding. So it's not a thing like, oh, it's an image thing. It's just sometimes it happens. And it's not going to be everybody's copy. You know, I've seen, like, Black Science, I think is notorious. Volume 1, the first printing, is notorious for having horrible binding. Looking a lot worse than that. And how it lays over towards the back. The book is printed in this really thick, glossy paper. So there's no real bleed through coming in. And again, the ribbon. Love it. But that's it. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this omnibus, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, build, and of course comparison to a Marvel omnibus of this particular book. Let me know in the comments down below if you have never heard of the series, if you read the series in trade paperback and single issues, if you got the omnibus and it's your first time checking it out and you just buy books in hardcover no matter what they are. But regardless, I would love to know all your comments down below. What you think of the series if you've read it. I was a big pusher for this series for years, so I'm so glad that it is now out in a big hardcover format. But that's it for me. Everyone, stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.